Hello and welcome to episode 5 of Violin Chats. This episode is called Winning on Stage. If you're here to learn how to conquer performance anxiety, crush your nerves, and learn how to deliver your best performance under pressure, you're in the right spot. Welcome to my interview series called Violin Chats. My name is Jeong Koh, and I am the founder of Violynn with Dr. Lynn. This is my interview series where I interview amazing experts on everything to do with the violin. And today's episode is going to be a really juicy, wisdom-filled episode because I have a great expert with whom I've worked very closely. I am going to tell you all about him in a second. Now, before I do, if you are intrigued at all about these guests that I bring onto my series, be sure to sign up on my mailing list, which you will find a link for in the description box. So go ahead right now and find that link, sign up, and you will be notified about my guests for episode 6, 7, 8, and 9 coming down the pipeline. You don't want to miss this because I have some really fantastic musicians who are willing to share their expertise with us. So I know you're eager to hear about today's guest. Well, today's guest, I'm sure, is no stranger to many of you because when we talk about how to perform our best under pressure and how to win an orchestra audition, the first name we come up with is the name of my next guest. He is a peak performance psychologist. He is the author of at least 8 books, if not more, coming up down the pipeline, among them Performance Success, Audition Success, Fight Your Fear and Win. His TED Talk alone has reached over 31 million views across YouTube and Facebook. He has worked with elite athletes and musicians across the world. He has coached the U.S. Olympic diving team. He has worked with Green Berets, members of SWAT teams. He has worked with Formula One race car drivers. He brings many performers to their best performance possible. And this man is my guest today. If you are sitting down and you have thumbs available, please bring them out to get ready to give a thumbs up or a huge heart to my next guest. Get them ready. Thumb, thumb, thumb. This is my guest, Dr. Don Greene. Thank you so much, Dr. Greene, for being with us today.
My pleasure. I'm really excited to be here.
I'm so excited about this interview. So how is it, may I ask, how is it in LA right now, the weather-wise? I'm just curious.
You know, it's been really hot, like in the 90s, and yesterday the heat broke, and we have reasonable temperatures now. It's like only like in the 80s. So it's getting back. Yes. Okay. It's been really hot.
That's about the same, I think, everywhere. I think in Toronto and here in Newfoundland where I am, it's really wet and rainy. So because you and I have worked together, I still have questions with you, even though you and I have worked together closely. And what I've really treasured working with you is that it has really changed my life. You have changed me as not only as a performer, but as a human being. This is how important I think your work is. And this is why I've been so excited to have you talk with my viewers. And so the very first question I want to ask, I have so many questions, but maybe the first question I would like to ask you, because you've worked with top performers around the world, I think it may be a global misconception that top performers who make it big on stage or in hockey arenas or football fields or the golf green, these top performers who keep winning competitions and excelling in performance, they do not get nervous. But from what I understand working with you, this is not true, right? It's not.
No, everybody gets nervous. Well, not everybody.
Not everybody. So I'm just curious, what's the percentage of people who get nervous and the percentage of people who do not get nervous?
Most people get nervous, but the only people that don't get nervous are psychopaths.
Okay.
Because they don't care.
That's a really good point.
So as long as you care about your music and sounding good and playing beautifully, you're gonna get what I call energy. I don't use the term nervousness. I say excited. Because I get excited. I get what people would call nervous. I grew up with a fear of public speaking. And
really?
Oh yeah, all through high school and college. When I was 4, I was diagnosed with a speech impediment. I couldn't pronounce certain words, especially the sound of GR. I couldn't. I couldn't.
Well, that's your name.
Exactly.
I didn't know that. That's incredible. Now, okay, now I want to know how you overcame that.
Well, I struggled with it all through high school and college. Graduate school. Fortunately, I didn't have to give many presentations in graduate school. And then I thought, I got to solve this. So I went to a Toastmasters meeting. It was in San Diego. Just show up with a brown bag lunch with a bunch of other scared people. And they're going around the table introducing themselves. And before they got to me, I left.
You bailed. You succumbed. You succumbed to fear.
So I went to graduate school for sports psychology. And in my sports psychology, I learned about energy and nervousness and athletes getting nervous. And that's when I discovered the centering strategy, which and that's the main strategy I teach to help people use the energy, not just push it down, but to use it. And if I'm not up enough before a presentation, I'll drink espresso or coffee. I need to feel that energy. I love that energy because it's about power and focus. And people don't want to hear boring music. They want to hear excitement, playing the edge, go for it, not playing defensively. And I'm a real big fan of it. And a couple of years ago, I did a keynote for Music Teachers National Association, 2,000 piano teachers essentially, and they wanted to put a mic on me. I said, no, I don't want a mic. I want to power out. I need to use my voice. So I became a big fan. And the thing is, I've been privileged to work with a lot of elite musicians, and talking is certainly a lot easier than playing the violin. So I have tremendous respect for the ability to play an instrument like that under pressure with such a small margin of error. Not to mention the bowing. And I mean, that's why I have such great respect for classical musicians, because it's tough. And most of them, unfortunately, have not been taught how to deal with energy.
That's so true. That's so true. Most of what we know about peak performance is from the literature from sports psychology. That it's all from sports psychology. Now, I'm just curious now, what are the differences you see with musicians and, let's say, all the other clients that you've worked with, I guess in particular athletes? What are some key similarities and what are the differences between these particular groups of people?
Well, they're all highly dedicated, focused on winning an audition or an Olympic gold medal, spend a lot of time on it. The difference is Olympic athletes have had sports psychology around since the 1960s with one of my mentors. When he worked with the Dallas Cowboys, they had to sneak in the back door because they didn't want to shrink in the locker room or anybody knowing. And he worked his way into Major League Baseball and football, basketball, the Olympic team. So starting probably many years ago, almost every Olympic team had their own sports psychologist. I was with the Olympic diving team for 2 Olympics, and then the Olympic track and field team for 2016. So you look at sports that can be measured, like long jump, high jump. And why do Olympic athletes compete all the time? They compete for COVID. They compete in national championships, regional championships, World University Games, Maccabee Games, Pan Am Games. All the time they're competing. And it's all for record. If they set a world record in any of these competitions, it's a world record. But it's only every 4 years at the Olympics do not only the Olympic records drop, but the world records drop dramatically. Why? All the energy. You don't know what it's like to be at an Olympics and stand like on a pool deck. It's oh my God, it's electric. I mean, it's hard staying on the ground. Every athlete, everybody they've ever known is watching them compete. And they feel the energy. And they put that into the high jump and they jump higher. They put it into the 100-meter dash, they run faster. And the common wisdom, so I got involved in music at Juilliard, was just push that energy down, push it down. Beta blockers, meditate, just push it down. Alcohol, whatever you can do to push it down. And I said, no, don't push it down. Use that energy.
So this may be surprising to a lot of musicians, because a lot of us feel, including myself, I feel like my energy is so high and trembling that it's going to impede my performance. I would rather take it down, but you're saying no, don't take it down.
No, don't drive it down.
Don't drive it down.
From a 90 to a 40,
take
it from a 90 to a 65 or 70
yep.
with excitement, its power, its intensity, it's going for it. And that's what the centering's about, is to teach you how to get it under control, but not eliminate it. You want it.
Okay,
it's also practicing with that energy, getting used to it. And I do a thing called simulation training, where you get the energy up and then you play and you get used to it. You asked me something that we started with. Only psychopaths get nervous. So I've got a partial list of some people that you may have heard of that do get nervous, and these are all people that admit it. Okay, these people that don't admit it, all of these people admit it. You've heard of some of these. We'll start with Renee Fleming. She says, I have had a difficult time with stage fright. It undermines your well-being and peace of mind, and it can destroy your livelihood. That's Renee Fleming.
Wow.
Okay? That's the only. Let me just read you some names you may have heard of. All four Beatles.
All four.
Pablo Casals, Vladimir Horowitz, Sir Laurence Olivier, Justin Timberlake, Michelle Pfeiffer, Cher, Prince, Baryshnikov, Kirk Douglas, Kurt Cobain, Barbara Streisand, Carol Burnett, Jackie Ivanko, Courtney Cox Arquette, Johnny Carson, Julia Roberts, Robin Williams, Richard Gere, Ozzy Osbourne, Eminem, Jerry Seinfeld, Robert De Niro, Katy Perry, Jason Alexander, Tom Cruise, Luciano Pavarotti, Carrie Fisher. That's half the list. Sir Alec Guinness, Rihanna, Jimmy Stewart, Brandy, Fiona Apple, Tiffany, James Earl Jones, Mary Chapin Carpenter, Rene Russo, Taylor Swift, Johnny Depp, Andrea Bocelli, Sally Field, Ariana Grande, Mel Gibson, Lorde, Tom Hanks, Elvis Presley, Ken Basinger, Demi Lovato, Lucille Ball, Anne Margaret, Bob Dylan, Brad Pitt, David Bowie, Ella Fitzgerald. Got the idea?
Wow. I mean, okay, so if we read to this list, it sounds like, well, we know everyone on this list is not a psychopath. Yay, those are not psychopaths.
You learn to embrace the energy, not push it away, not fear it. It's fearing it that exaggerates it.
So this is the number one tip for right now, is that when we feel nervous, it's not a bad thing. It's normal, and it's something we can actually harness.
See, that's it. It's all a matter of interpretation.
Okay. I love this. I love this. Please tell us more.
Well, you're going to get a shot of adrenaline, okay? If it matters at all, you're going to get the shot of adrenaline. Not 100% of the time, just most all the time. Okay. And you may not have it in the green room. You may not have it until you're about to play the first phrase. But I would count on it happening. Okay, and then you get all the symptoms, or a lot of them. Okay, and the thing is, there's three main types of symptoms, and once the adrenaline hits and goes into the bloodstream, it happens in a nanosecond. Okay, you can be relaxed walking out on stage and just sky high for the first phrase. So that it's both physical, mental, and emotional symptoms. The physical symptoms are changes in breathing, changes in pulse rate, blood pressure, feeling the energy surge through your body. You may perspire a lot. You may go to the bathroom 5 times before you go out on stage. You may feel tremors in your hand shaking, maybe knees shaking. People's eyes tend to look around, scanning for danger, and muscle tension. Mm-hmm. Okay. Now, some of these are important to pay attention to, and some not. They're called task relevant or task irrelevant.
Okay.
The task relevant ones are the ones that affect your playing, namely tension. That's number one. Number two, changes in breathing, shallow breathing. So you don't get enough oxygen to your brain. That doesn't help either.
Okay.
Those are the main ones.
And shaking for strength.
No, that's just it. That's task irrelevant.
Really?
Yeah. Butterflies in your stomach, that's acid released into your stomach. It doesn't matter unless you pay attention to it and say, oh, that's terrible. I must be nervous.
So irrelevant?
Here's the thing. Everybody's concerned about a shaky bow or bouncing. Okay, that's the main thing. Well, if you hold your hand out, in fact, put your arm out, and you look, and you'll see your hand shake.
Okay.
Unless you're a psychopath.
I'm a psychopath, really? No, I'm not. Okay.
But if you look at it and pay attention to it and think, that's terrible, I got to stop it, and you try to stop the shaking, it will increase the shaking. It's called purpose tremor. Purpose tremor. If your purpose is to make it stop tremoring, shaking, it will increase it.
Really?
So that's why it's task irrelevant. Don't pay attention to it. Pay attention to smooth bowing. Pay attention to your fingering. Pay attention to music. Don't make it worse. Relax your shoulders. Pay attention to your muscle tension and breathe deep. But don't focus on your stomach or any of that. Next is the mental. Then under pressure, certain things happen mentally. Number one, we tend to get more left brain. We tend to think more in words, analysis. How do I get out of this dilemma? Which pulls you out of the right brain, which is where you hear the music and feel the bowing.
Mm-hmm.
And all of a sudden you're overthinking, which causes problems because it's not about thinking, it's about playing.
Yeah.
Get self-conscious, like people are really noticing me. Just everybody's staring at me. People get self-critical and negative, get very harsh on themselves.
So true.
Yeah.
So true. I'm so happy that, because everything you just said, I just literally taught to my boot campers. I taught a class on peak performance training, and I said, I got this straight from the granddaddy himself. And I said everything that you just said, and I'm so happy to hear it said again to me. Now, for those of our people watching today, we might not all know, be on the same page about what left brain versus right brain thinking is. We might not know what your centering techniques are. Could you talk about what happens when you get nervous? What happens in the brain? You just said all these thoughts and self-consciousness happens, but what is the difference between going into left brain and right brain?
Sure. Glad you asked. Left brain is where we think in words and numbers. Math, logic, rational thinking. That's good for attorneys and mathematicians, not for musicians.
Okay.
The right brain is where we perceive in sounds, images, and sensations, like the feeling of good bowing. No words.
No words.
So the idea before you start to play is you want to switch from left brain thinking, do this, don't do that, watch out for the high notes, to hearing the music, feeling smooth bowing in your body, looking at the music, keeping your eyes down. When your eyes go up, people go into left brain. If I ask you to do some mathematical functions, this won't be that painful. But if you'll notice, your eyes will tend to go up.
That's true when you're thinking, yeah, recalling things, right?
Start counting backwards from 100 by sevens. 193. Yeah. And I see it all the time with musicians. Right before they play, they're going into left brain, they're thinking about the opening phrase and all, and it's the last place you want to be, because if you're in left brain, you can't hear the music fully. You can't feel good bowing. You can't maybe not see good bowing, fingering. So it's important that you get from left brain to right brain, and it's as simple as hear the music, play the music.
Hear the music, play the music. So I think what you had taught to me was
not hear the music, think the music, play the music. That interruption is what causes problems.
Okay.
See, we've got this area of our left brain, especially in the front, called the prefrontal cortex.
Mm-hmm.
It's the most advanced form of thinking in the universe, in human. This is the most advanced part of the brain. It's responsible for what's called executive functioning.
Mm-hmm.
planning ahead, figuring out how to get out of this dilemma. What do I do? I analyze the problem. And that's the last place you want to be when you're about to play music. This is what causes double clutching, choking, hesitation. Well, the left brain's trying to figure this out because there's nothing to figure out. Hear the music, play the music.
So when we're ready to play on stage, we're going to imagine the notes, right? The rhythm, the pulse, the character, and then play. Stop.
You want to hear it and feel the rhythm and all that. Yeah, and once you're there, you're in a garden spot. There's no need to hesitate, because if you hesitate more than a nanosecond, your left brain is going to chime in with some kind of information like, don't forget this and watch out for that. Yeah.
Now I have a question for this, because I taught that to my students, and I had a question that came in from Kathleen, actually. So I read your book, and many of us have read your book, Audition Success, and you mentioned in the book using process cues, so words that help trigger the ideal state that you want to channel when you're about to perform something specific. So is that not a left-brained cue, a process cue?
You're exactly right.
Okay.
That's why I tell people not to read my book, Audition Success.
Okay. But you know what? I do find that helpful. I do find process cues helpful for me.
I wrote that book before I really understood music and what's involved. Okay.
Okay.
And it is a left brain word. It is a cue. And I would much rather have a right brain non-word of hear the first phrase, play the first phrase.
Okay.
So I've hopefully evolved since that was my first book. And I was still learning.
Okay, so basically we can diminish the importance of using left brain process cues and increase the importance of hearing and imagining, right? When we're creating in real time? Okay.
Yeah, without shifting it to left brain.
Okay. Well, thanks for answering that question. Let me just check here. We've got a few people who have probably taken your class. Let's just say hi quickly. Hi, Carol, Lisa, Tom, Ina. Hi, everybody. Hassan, nice to see you. Do we have any questions for Dr. Greene? Let's see. Carol is asking a question here. Do you think learning more by psychology could help us with our performing? Learning more about adrenaline? Is that what you meant, Carol? Do you think learning more about psychology could help us with our performing? I think we know the answer to that question.
It depends on what you read. I mean, it's psychology all over the place.
Okay.
That's why I would recommend books on peak performance and peak psychology, sports psychology.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And all of them?
My favorite one, the best sports psychology book, the reason why I haven't written a sports psychology book is there's a good one out there, and it's called The New Toughness Training for Sports.
My favorite. Yeah. James Lair.
James Lair, Loehr. He's awesome. You don't have to play tennis, but it helps if you do. Most of the examples are in it, but it's the best book I've found in sports psychology.
I 100% agree with that. You got me to read that book, and I heard another violin teacher tell me about the book, Burton Kaplan, and I 100% agree. I've scanned through a whole bunch of other books. This one by far, your book and James Lair's book, I have them both, and I don't have Performance Success. I need to buy that one. But yeah, I agree. I tell everyone to get that book, James Lair, for sure. Yeah, Ina agrees. She loves that book as well. Yeah.
Success is the one I wrote for musicians specifically. It's based upon my lectures at Juilliard and my classes at New World Symphony. I just tried to put all of that into that book, and I'm still very pleased with that book.
Yeah, I will link that.
Until my next book comes out.
Sorry?
Until my next book comes out.
And are you at liberty to tell us what your next book is, or no? Is it still under wrap? Yeah?
The title might change, but it's called Train Your Own Hero, Reach a Peak Level of Functioning in 1 month.
In 1 month. Wow, what a promise. I love it. This is great. That's exciting.
It's day by day for 1 month, and I do add a lot of psychology into this. It's a combination of the Freudian model and getting past your ego, because the ego is what a lot of the noise is from your ego. Yeah. And that's got to be quieted. You can't kill your ego, but you can quiet it down. And then Jungian psychology, which is a little bit more complicated, but more relevant to musicians and more positive. It's not all about sex. It's about transformation and growing.
Right.
And the whole idea of archetypes and personal unconscious and the collective unconscious. If they wanted to read one psychologist, I would read Carl Jung, Jung. He parted ways with Freud and came up with a much better one. He worked with creative artists and musicians and highly functioning people. And the other would be Joseph Campbell, who wrote The Power of Myth and The Hero of a Thousand Faces. And his works of the hero's journey is the basis of Star Wars.
Oh, yes, you had mentioned this to me. That's right.
And it's all about the inner transformation that we all go through to find your own hero and live a hero's life. That's what hopefully be out in a couple months.
Oh, that's amazing. So you've written a book on how we can transform ourselves from a humble young Luke Skywalker to an incredible later Jedi.
Yeah, that's it.
Can't wait for that. The Jedi book by Dr. Don Greene.
Because that's what I mean. That's the structure. It's throughout all of our stories. They're all based on the myth of the hero, because it's about, every hero starting out as an ordinary person and then getting called to action, to a higher calling, and then we resisting. This is Star Wars. This is The Hobbit. This is Wizard of Oz. This is Harry Potter. This is. And then they resist the calling because it's scary, but then they say, okay, give me a lightsaber, and I can, have special tools.
Yeah.
And into the foreign lands where they encounter all these strange beings and allies and new friends. And then they have to approach the cave where the dragon is, to slay the dragon, capture the prize and the damsel, and come back and return home a hero. So the book is for musicians and athletes to take their whatever level they're at right now, a quantum leap to a peak level of functioning, which is, I don't use the word perfect, but it's flawless.
Flawless, interesting. So we're going
I've had a few people read it.
Yeah.
Okay? And one was a French horn player, who was making the finals in most auditions. He made the super finals for the LA Philharmonic. And then what I write about in my book caused a mistake. Okay. I'm finding with a lot of musicians that get that close, and then in the finals, they make a mistake that they can't explain. I as an athlete, when I was an athlete, I made unforced errors. And I've tried for 40 years to figure out unforced errors, like with talented musicians like you, where did that mistake come from? And that they couldn't understand it or explain it themselves. And it wasn't because they weren't great and talented or trained. They shouldn't have made the mistake, but they did. And I feel like I figured out unforced errors and what caused it. And it has to do with confronting weaknesses, your Darth Vader, if you will.
So we're getting deep into internal psychology here.
Yeah.
Wow. So
excuse me 1 second. So he read the book.
Yeah.
And every musician in LA wants the Hollywood Bowl audition, the Hollywood Bowl summer gig. That's what everybody wants, to play the Hollywood Bowl for the summer. He won the principal audition.
He won the principal.
After read the book.
Really?
Every person I've had read advanced copies has a performance that's the best of their lives.
Wow. Well, if that's not a great endorsement to buy your next book, how can we sign up? That's great.
Stay tuned. It'll be on my website.
Okay, great. I will put your website. Let's see there. If anyone wants to know right now how to find Dr. Greene, that's the website to visit right now. See, I'm prepared. I got you. I got your back. So, okay. So basically, you're saying, let me just recap here. Let me just rewind here. Basically, you're saying that when we get nervous on stage, we need to reframe it. We need to reinterpret it. It's not the end of the world. It's because we're not a sociopath or psychopath. And it's completely normal. We need to embrace it, harness it, use the energy, because it will make us more powerful, transform us from Luke Skywalker into a Jedi. Did I summarize that correctly?
Awesome. So Well, here's how it
And
happens.
then close my book.
Here's how it happens. There's a sequence of perception,
Okay.
interpretation, action.
Sequence, interpretation, action. Okay.
No, perception,
Oh,
interpretation.
sequence, perception, interpretation.
Okay. In other words, you walk into a room you've never played in before. As soon as your heel hits the floor, you perceive the acoustics of the room.
Okay.
It happens instantly.
Okay.
Based upon that, you make an interpretation.
Okay.
Like this is a dead room or a live room, and I can't play you. I can't sound good in this room. And then you either overplay or play defensively or whatever. It's that interpretation, it's the thought that affects it. So it's the same thing with nervousness. If you feel, you feel your heart pounding and say, oh my God, now I'm nervous, now I'm not going to play well. There it is. Then you'll affect your performance. And I'm saying you interpret it as, it's okay. I'm okay. It's okay. Yeah, my heart's pounding. It's okay. Make sure you drop your shoulders. But yeah, my heart's racing. Fine. I can play with my heart racing. And that's why I'm saying with the simulation training, practice in a safe environment, get your heart racing, and then pick up the instrument and play to convince yourself that you can play with your heart racing.
Right. Right. So it sounds like it's a combination of reinterpreting our perception of the situation, right? And also training ourselves in simulation training. So we're simulating the actual environment, getting our heart rate up, and getting as close as we can to the actual live nerve-wracking performance and getting used to that situation, right?
In a safe environment.
Okay.
And progressively. And you go from high energy, well, get your energy up, but you go from high energy pieces that are low difficulty to mid difficulty, mid energy, to low energy, very fragile pieces, soft pieces. That's the progression over a month, maybe.
I love that, the progression, because this is precisely what I'm doing in my 8-week summer violin boot camp. And I have a few violin boot campers in here with me. Hi, Carol. And that's what I'm doing with them. I'm training them for the 8th week for a graduation recital. And I'm challenging them to go post some videos in our private group. I'm challenging them to now actually post some technical videos, just little ones that are not so threatening. And then I'm actually upping the challenges now and asking them to go live inside the group. I even had one boot camper. Hi, Susanna. Susanna went live on her public social media on Instagram. So I love this. They're all on the right track. They're building their challenges.
Put pressure on yourself and learn how to do it, and not just survive, but thrive. That you can play better with the energy than you can if you're relaxed. It's not about comfort. It's about performance. If you want to be comfortable, don't play in public.
I love that quote. You taught me that. I love that. It's not about being comfortable, because being under pressure is not comfortable. It's not about being in your bunny slippers with a cup of tea, right? When you're on stage? No.
Not me. So let me tell you a story. A few years ago, I had back surgery, pretty severe back surgery from athletic injuries. And I was out for quite a while, and I really missed teaching. And I started rehabbing. I got contacted by Sam Houston State University for a guest lecture series. They said, would you come and talk? I said, yeah, I'd love to get back. I haven't talked in then a year and a half. I'd been out of it. I couldn't teach anymore. I couldn't stand up. Anyway, so I had the back surgery, and they contacted me, and they said, will you come? And they said, what would you talk about? I said, well, what do you want me to talk about? They said, well, whatever you want. So I said, who's going to be there that way? So we don't know. We open it up to the whole school, but people don't come. They don't come. We had Dan Rather, the newscaster, went to school there, and he came, nobody showed up. And Lena Horn, the opera singer, she got like 15 people.
Really?
So they said, don't get your hopes up, okay?
Okay.
So I purposely did not prepare.
Okay.
I used to think about what I was going to talk about. I wanted to put pressure on myself.
Okay.
So I didn't think about it.
Okay.
I got there, and I met with the president, and they had me for lunch, and they said really nice things about me. And they said, what are you going to talk about? I said, I don't know. Which kind of concerned them. So before it, I did my usual thing. I always take a nice long walk, beforehand, but to clear my head, not to plan on what I was going to talk about, just to clear my head. So I get there, and I'm in a green room, and they call me out. They say, stand over here. And 3 people introduce me. And I look out from behind the curtain, and this is their big concert hall. It's standing room only.
Standing room only. It was packed.
The football team, the basketball team, the whole music program, the track team.
Amazing.
And I'm looking out thinking, this might have been a mistake.
Oh, now you have me. I want to know what the rest of the story is all about now.
So I take my pulse, which is normally like 68. My pulse is 144.
Okay.
My hands are shaking.
Okay.
God. So they gave me this nice introduction, and my heart rate went up even more. And I went out there and I said, I'm really excited to be here. I'm nervous. My hands are shaking. I'm perspiring. I don't have anything prepared. Here we go, rock and roll. And I just started. And it was great. It was great. I had to be on and put myself up against the wall. I really focused. The energy was high. I was on.
So great things can happen when you're sky high on nerves, basically.
When the energy is pumping.
Okay.
Focus really well. You focus really well.
Yeah.
You watch people have a gun pointed at them.
Yeah.
They focus really well.
That's so true. That is so true.
So it's getting used to that energy and using its excitement, its power. That's why you can play better with that than you can in the practice room. I don't think you should just try to play it the way you probably practice room. No, that's for the practice room. Get used to this high energy playing. There's 2 kinds of practice. There's practicing practice. There's practice performing. Practice is learning the music with a metronome, a tune, a stop, start. But after you got it, then you need to practice performing, which is what we're saying. Put a piece of music on the stand, turn the tape recorder on, get out of the room, get your heart rate up, drink 5 cups of coffee, come back in, you're on, go for it. Once you start, no stopping till you're done. That's it. The first few times you do this, don't listen to the recording. It'll sound like shit.
This is the missing key, I think, right here. We don't do enough of practicing to perform. We don't turn the recorder on often enough. We don't put ourselves into that uncomfortable situation of pressure. We just don't do it enough. Is that right, Dr. Greene?
That's exactly it.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden you're on stage and this feels uncomfortable. This doesn't feel like the practice room. I wish I felt like it. No, this is embracing that, getting used to it, learning that you can sound better with it.
Yeah.
This is what wins auditions. Boring music does not win auditions. A lot of other talented performers there, you got to stand out. You got to light them up. That's not just playing, well, that was very nice. Thank you. Just doesn't work. Doesn't work.
So I have a question that I want to just share with you from one of my boot campers, actually, Steve. Steve asked a question. He asked, so in the middle of a performance, he was saying, when performing in a string quartet or in a violin piano duo, when something goes wrong, and his example was fumbled notes or intonation is going awry, whatever is going wrong, the next thing that happens is you start to realize, oh, I'm starting to tremble, right? And then, as he says, and then one can't control the now shaking bow. How does one get back on track during the performance? That's Steve's question.
It's a really good question, because
I know too.
I'm a strong optimist, but mistakes are inevitable in music. I mean, consider all the notes in a piece of music, not to mention the phrasings, the markings, the subtle things. I mean, it's a minefield to walk through and expect you're going to be played perfectly. I'm really against perfectionism, and my experience with classical musicians is they're much more perfectionistic than athletes.
Yep.
And it can get in the way. So my attitude is strive for excellence, do the best you can, But when mistakes happen, have a strategy. Here's the strategy. Five points, okay?
Okay.
Again, once you make the mistake, you put number 1 in. The first thing you do is you immediately accept the mistake.
Accept the mistake. Okay.
Number 1. The opposite of that is denial. It sounds like, I can't believe I made that mistake. I've never made that mistake. I couldn't have made that mistake. You made the mistake.
Just accept. It happened.
You can figure out later what to do with it.
Okay.
You won't forget. You probably made a mistake 3 years ago. You still is in your mind. You won't forget. Okay. So number 1 is you immediately accept it.
Okay.
Number 2 is you drop the tension that it causes. Don't pay attention to your hands shaking. Get your shoulders relaxed.
Okay.
Put it there. Okay.
Okay.
Number 3, put your mind back into the present on the notes, not the note you missed, on the note that you're playing, and maybe the next note after that. Okay.
Okay.
Imagine it going well. In other words, in the moment, see yourself. Imagine it going well. And the last is, don't try to make up for it in the moment by playing the rest of the piece the best you've ever played in your whole life to make up for it. It will just set up another mistake. You just want to get the train back on the track, just some solid playing. Just take care of business.
Okay.
Fix the problems later. So immediate acceptance, drop the tension, mind into the now on the notes, imagine the note going well, just get back on solid ground. And this is something you practice when you're practicing performing.
Okay.
Start, you don't stop. Never, ever, ever, ever stop until the bow breaks. Just keep playing.
Okay.
And get used to it. Okay. So when I was at Sam Houston State and the initial adrenaline, I could hear the quiver in my voice.
Yep. That's familiar to me too.
I just talked through it.
Yeah.
It would go down soon enough if I just didn't pay attention to it.
Uh-huh.
And probably within 20 seconds, it was gone.
Yes. That's so true. Yeah. It's there at the beginning and then you just push through it.
That's exactly it.
Yeah.
But also, this is why I really stress the importance of beginnings, the first phrases of pieces.
I totally agree.
That's where all the pressure builds up. That's where people can hesitate. And for most of my clients, they get off to a good start. They've got it. It's the double clutching. It's the executive thinking, overthinking, hesitating, not being in right brain, thinking in left brain that causes the double clutching and off to bad starts. And that's what happens to too many people in audition. Mm-hmm. And I've talked to a lot of people on audition panels, like Joe Alessi, who's principal trombone of the Philharmonic. He teaches at Juilliard. He hears a lot of auditions. And he told me one time, he says, if the first 2 bars are out of tempo, I stop listening. If the first 2 bars are not in the correct tempo, he doesn't listen anymore. They're done.
we need to focus on the first 2 measures of every single thing we play, because that's the most crucial part of our impression that we leave on our listeners.
And that's all the pressure builds up before the first note.
Yes.
Months, weeks, and until that note comes out, there's no guarantees.
Yes, it's so true. I did say that to my boot campers. I said, I want you to mentally rehearse just the opening, every minute detail. I tell them my mental rehearsal routine that I developed through coaching with you, and I even have it as down to the detail where I lift the cloth under my chin. I actually look at the space between the hair and my bow stick. I always check. I know what I check, and then I test the tightness of the screw. Then I can see the centimeters become millimeters for the bow to touch the hair or the strings of my instrument. I have it down, and I rehearse it over and over and over again. Thanks to you. I learned that from you.
So part of the practicing performing is you get your heart rate up and the whole thing. Then you go back in and play the first 2 bars of the first piece, switch over, first 2 bars of the next excerpt, stop, next 2 bars of the third excerpt. And then your heart rate's going to come down. But it's starting out pieces knowing that your heart is racing and say, it's fine. It's fine. So I was on my way to Juilliard class one day.
Mm-hmm.
I never prepared for my classes. I walked down 9th Avenue till I got near, and then I went to class. And this day, there was an apartment building on fire right across from Lincoln Center. And again, I could have interpreted this wrong and say, oh my God, I'm going to go up in flames today. It's not going to crash and burn. And this is when you need to make it the correct interpretation.
Yes.
And the correct interpretation is what serves you best. It need not be tied strictly to reality. This is where, as a psychologist, I can give you permission to bend reality just a little bit and interpret everything in your favor. So I thought, hey, I'm going to light them on fire today in class.
I've told that story, actually. I gave a lecture on orchestral audition preparation to students at Memorial University, and I told them your story. I said, I'm going to light them on fire.
So whatever it is, it means the same thing. It's going to go well. That's what it means. Yeah. No more thinking. It's going to go well. Of course, it's because you can hit, but under pressure, you start looking for omens. Like, oh my God, omens. Yeah, like classmate. They never looked at me like that before. They think I'm nervous. They think I'm going to bomb this. No, I'm going to nail it. Whatever it means, you're gonna play well. That's it. That's the bottom line. Over and over and over. Don't do this with normal reality, like driving a car, like it's going to go great. I can go 100. Safe stuff like auditions.
Okay, I love this. I'm just going to see quickly who has other questions. I'm sure there's tons of things in here.
We can go another 15 minutes if you'd like.
Sure, thank you. Okay, we'll try to keep this quick here. Okay, what would you do? Lisa's asking, what would you do when you experience the same fear for playing for a teacher? Because you automatically go into right brain, specifically when you get instructions. So I guess she's saying she gets nervous playing for someone, for a teacher, and then how do you get into the right brain when you're getting instructions? I guess
that's a really good question, because you need to learn things left brain to understand them before you can do them. So that's what's tricky in a lesson, and that depends upon the teacher also, that you get the verbal information, and then you got to synthesize it over to your right brain really quickly.
Okay.
And what I would do is ask the teacher to play it, or ask the teacher to hum it, and then hum it yourself.
Okay.
Again, so just time in a lesson, because it comes really quick. And to me, I'm a slow learner. I just have learned that I'm a slow learner. And I just ask, wait, slow it down, do it again, tell me again, let me get it right in my mind first. That's the tricky part of the lesson. And as a student, you deserve time to process it. It's complex information. The teacher understands it, but it's new information for the student. So sure. I would really slow it down, ask the teacher to play, to hum it, give me time, let me just,
Okay, I like that. That's a great answer. Okay, so we only have a few minutes left. I want to be mindful of your time. Let's see. Tom asks, how do we practice the right brain skills so that when we step on the stage, the revving brain can be befriended?
Again, it's practicing performing in right brain.
Yeah, I agree. Our bows, our lightsabers. Yes, Lisa. Yes. You know what? I think that's what it is. You said you gave us permission, did you not? You said Dr. Greene gave us permission to use our imagination. So I think I'm going to give myself permission to become Princess Leia / Luke Skywalker. May I do that?
Absolutely.
Yay! I'm doing that. Okay, I'm going to tell my boot campers that. Hi,
Lynn, did we talk about alter ego effect?
No, I would love to talk about that if you have the time.
Yeah. Okay. It's really a good book. It's not sports psychology, but it's the alter ego effect. It's very practical for musicians that are introverted. And a lot of musicians are introverted and shy like me. And if you're a shy introvert, it's like the double whammy. And that puts you into a nervous position or a defensive position.
Yeah.
And this book talks about the fact that what wins auditions or things are extroverts who aren't shy. Okay, it's like, hey, everybody, look at me. Introverts, don't look at me. Extroverts, hey, everybody, look at me.
Ah.
So what you want to do is you want to come up with your audition act.
Okay.
That's not you. It's somebody else.
Okay, I love that.
Yeah. And it works really well with musicians.
I love it.
And I learned how to do this because I use my alter ego sometimes in performances like this. Okay. So what you do is you take all the qualities that you would like to have, that you would like to embody, including some from your favorite people, like your favorite opera stars, dancers, actors, okay? Because this is what actors do. Robert De Niro doesn't act like a tough guy at home. It's an act. They get paid for it. They learn how to do it. But most musicians feel disingenuous. They don't feel congruent or true to themselves. But true to the self, they get scared and doesn't do the act. So you put together this alter ego, this alternative personality that goes to the audition and plays them for you, that is outgoing, not shy, kind of gregarious.
Yeah.
And you start developing this character, and you establish their personality, like a backstory, where'd they grow up, how do they move, and you start talking differently. You start walking differently, walking on stage with this confidence versus apologetically walking on, and you're protected. This sensitive parts of you are not there. They're protected. It's somebody else playing. And it's really good. And I've used it with a bunch of musicians.
Yeah.
And especially for the shy, introverted perfectionists, it's like the trifecta. It's really good.
I love this because I think you just answered, I think, Tom's question about how do we get into the right brain. This is the perfect gateway into right brain domain, is it not? We're just creating a complete character of emotions and colors and personality traits. There's no more left brain at all now. We're now in the land of imagination.
And then you practice it. You practice it. And with different clothes. Make your hair different. Become somebody else and then try it out. And the way you try it out, when malls do open again, is go to a mall where nobody knows you and come around in this personality.
Wow.
It's very empowering. It's very empowering.
Practice our alter ego at the mall.
Yeah.
Oh, you just gave us a good homework assignment, Dr. Greene. How on stage?
Listen, we all know an audition is not really making music. It's chopped up excerpts and stop and start and play that again from the beginning with more vibrato and all. That's not what musicians love to do. So this is not your normal life that normally is fine in symphonies and orchestras. This is an act you put on for the audition panel. It's an act. It's a 5-minute act, and I've seen people marvelous results.
Wow,
it's
I think you just gave us the quick hack on how to access right brain and deliver an amazing performance. I love that.
This book is readily available. It only came out a couple of years ago. I first kind of poo-pooed it till I realized how good it is. And you try it out. You practice it. Try it with some friends. But it's literally developing a new personality without not the flaws, but the things that don't work well for you in high-pressure situations.
Okay. The book was called The Alter Ego by?
The Alter Ego Effect.
Alter Ego Effect. Okay.
I forget the author. It's readily available. You'll find that. It's got a yellow cover. Some people, it's just very powerful.
Interesting. We have a comment here from Neil. It's like cosplay. It's so true. We can dress up in superhero, anime, or whatever we want, go to the mall and say, I'm just practicing what Dr. Greene suggested I do. You're going to convert us all into Jedis and cosplay people.
Yeah. It's fun. You know, audition can get way too serious.
That's so true.
Yeah. So you add some humor to it. You know, all the qualities you like to have. And that's who plays the audition for you.
So before, I want to be mindful of your time because I know we're going a little bit past what we had originally scheduled for. You have a great quote. I just lost my train of thought, but one of them is from Audition Success, page 102, 104. Courage is like a muscle. In order to strengthen it, you must use it. That's one of my favorite quotes from you.
Yeah, that's very true. That's what putting yourself under pressure is about, is to strengthen that muscle progressively, not in huge jumps, just progressively.
True, because if we train too hard too soon, then we get injured, right?
Injured or scared to death.
Yeah.
No bungee cord jumping, please.
Yeah, exactly. We can't go from 0 to jump bungee. Yes. Okay, wow, we got some good comments. Okay, so we got the author's name, Todd Herman. Great. I was asking, what's the title of your new book again?
Train Your Own Hero. Reach peak functioning in 1 month.
Okay, and we'll look out for that on your website, which I will put out here again.
If it's not out in 3 months, you can see on the evening news, former Green Beret trained in explosives got really frustrated that his book was not released yet.
Well, for someone who might be potentially frustrated, you're always in good spirits. That's what I love about you, Dr. Greene, because you're the eternal optimist. And you know what? Because I've trained with you, you have changed me as a person. I've told my students that I've become annoyingly positive. And it's because I've worked on my mindset because of my training with you. And I have you to thank for that. So thank you so much for changing me to annoyingly positive.
My pleasure.
So thank you so much for your time. If we had more time, we would talk forever, but I know we're robbing you of your precious minutes of your day. So I would just like to say thank you so much. And please, everyone who's listening and watching live right now, or even if you're watching the replay, please give Dr. Greene a thumbs up, or even better, a huge heart of appreciation. He's been so amazing this past hour. Thank you so much, Dr. Greene.
I appreciate it.
Yes, I appreciate you. Okay, thank you, everybody. And please share.
Thanks. Yes.
Thank you. Yeah, share this talk with everybody. Share it widely, because there were some excellent, excellent nuggets of wisdom in here. Thank you so much, Dr. Greene. And until the next time.
All right, Lynn, take care.
Take care.